This tutorial will demonstrate how to position objects that appear outside of the field of view of the canvas. The positioning will be done by entering values directly in the position properties. In this example, we'll be creating a stack of callouts that could be scrolled vertically that will give the illusion of different pages being scrolled as the video advances. Begin by going to Annotations and select the callout. I like to work with this particular one in the bold collection. Right-click, add it to the timeline. Right-click on the callout in the canvas and scale to fit. And then drag him out so that he completely fills the canvas area. You'll notice that you won't get a snap on the edge of the callout, but you would get a snap on the area that bounds where the text goes. Just fill out with the edge of the callout. Next, we want to set the position of the default text. So we'll double click to select the text. I want to bias it to the left and then to the upper left. Now what we want to do is set the duration of the callout. Now we're going to make a vertically scrolling template that runs for 19 minutes. So I want to set the duration here to 19 minutes plus 2 frames, and that's, in my calculator, we'll confirm it at 11:42. So we'll make that 11:42 seconds. Okay. Control-Shift-7 just to fill the timeline. Next, we want to select the callout on the timeline. Make a copy of that on your clipboard. So that's Control-C. Now we're going to change the text value of our first callout. And this callout is going to represent the callout placeholder that will be at the top of our scrolling list. And that'll be number 1. So I'm going to double click 1, take the focus away from the canvas. Now I want to paste another callout over top this one, so that's Control V. Now this one will be number 2, so I'll select the text 2. Again, click on the timeline to take the focus away from the canvas. We'll paste the third, Control V. And I'll select the text 3, remove focus. I'll continue doing this until I have all 19 callouts that I'll have in this scrolling template in place. I'll do that off camera. Okay, all 19 callouts are in place on the timeline and stacked on top of each other in the canvas. To make sure that we did it in the right order, I'll scroll the tracks and look at the number that's on each call out here to make sure they're in order. So I'll do that slowly. It looks like they're all there in the correct order. And again, first call out, which will be at the top of the scroll list, is at the bottom. I'll next select all the call outs on the timeline. So that's Control A. And I'm going to group them. Control G. And I'm going to remove any extra tracks here to make this easier. The next step is to determine the center point position of each of the callouts as they will be aligned when they are organized in a vertical stack. To do this, we're going to make use of Microsoft Excel. It's a little quicker. Now, we're going to be doing 19 callouts vertically stacked. I chose 19 because at the current project settings, which are HD, and we'll confirm that by looking here, 1920, 1080. When you're working at project dimensions at that size, your center position of the topmost callout, in this case with the 10th callout being dead center, it's going to be 9 vertical dimensions up in the canvas. And 9 vertical dimensions would be 1080 times 9, or at a top position of 9720. The reason we're only working with 19 in the total stack is that there's a limitation in the properties panel in Camtasia for manually entering values for positions. You're limited to 4 numeric characters. I can enter 9999 as the top value, but I can't enter 10,000. So in order to calculate where each of the callout center points need to be vertically, we'll start with the first top position and we'll subtract 1080 pixels from each one to get the next position. So the second one will be here, so we're going to say it's equal to this guy minus 1080. Enter key. And this one will be calculated by dragging down. And I'm going to drag this down to the 10th. The 10th call out, which is our center position, should be at 0, 0 in the canvas. And I'll continue doing this till I get the 9 that will fall below the canvas at 19 total. So these are the vertical center positions of all the callouts in this particular project. And we'll start positioning them from top one to the bottom. Top one's going to be 9720. So we'll go back to Camtasia. We're going to open our group. We're going to select the first call out, which is number 1. You can't see it here because the rest of these are over top. However, we'll go to Properties. In the Y position, we're going to type in 9720. Tab key. And that automatically moves the first call out to the top of the stack. And I'm going to scroll this down and then move the canvas. And you can see that it went up there. So we'll go back to Fit. Next thing I'll do is select the second call out in the vertical stack. Back to Excel. Our second vertical value should be 8640. So back in Camtasia, Y position, 8640, tab key, and just to double check again, I'll take a look in the canvas. The first two are now aligned one over the other, so this is going correctly. We'll do one more. Third, back in Excel, 7560. Back in Camtasia, 7560. Tab out of that. And that puts the third one up on the stack. Off camera, I'm going to continue this process for the rest of these callouts. Okay, I've now finished positioning all the callouts. You now see the 10th callout in the canvas, and that's because it's in the center of the vertical scroll. What I'm going to do now is send the playhead to the end, select the grouped callouts, Shift A to add a single animation keyframe, stretch it out just a little bit. Next, I'm going to shrink my canvas, and I'm going to put the playhead at the end of the animation keyframe and scroll the group in the canvas so that the last call out is fully in view at that position. Then I'm going to bring the animation keyframe back to the beginning of the timeline. And next I'm going to scroll the group so that it starts with number 1 at the beginning of the project, or t equals 0. And I can verify this by now scrubbing the timeline. And we're getting our scroll. But what I want to do is jump to the end, right click, set the easing to linear. If you don't do that, it won't look good. Once again, we'll scrub backwards or scroll, and you can see our numbers clicking off in the correct order. Back to t equals 0, where number 1 is in the canvas, and we'll fit it out so that's what you see. My next step would be to position the animation keyframe in at exactly the 18-minute point, and I need to do that because we're going to be scrolling 19 pages. We're starting with a full view of 1, want to end with a full view of 19, so there's 18 in between, and since we're scrolling at 1 minute per page, we need to end the animation at the 18-minute point, and I'm going to set this exactly at 18, and we're editing at 60 frames per second. I'm going to stick a marker here, Shift M. That'll make this a lot easier. And then I'm going to select my animation keyframe and slide him down till he locks on the marker. And I'm going to go shorten this group down now, because I only need a 2-second overhang after the end of the scroll, so Control Shift 9. Now let's bring this into view here. And we're going to continue shorten it until we're at about the 18-minute, 2-second point. There we are. That's close enough. Control Shift 7 puts everything back into view. I don't need this marker. I'm going to select it and delete it. Now, to make navigating the timeline easier while we're building out the project, I'm going to use a library asset that's basically a bunch of 60-second callouts with a marker at the beginning of each one. So I'm going to select that little asset. Let's put the playhead at t equals 0 first. And we'll send this down to the timeline. And here we have a bunch of 60-second callouts. They're in a group. So let's put our callout group on top. And let's remove that empty track there. If I open the group that holds the markers, what we have is a bunch of transparent callouts. You don't see them, but there's a marker attached to each one. Again, that's what we call a media marker, and that's necessary in order to have it go into and out of the library, okay? Another thing I like to do is add page navigator hotspots in the project. It makes it easier for a viewer to bounce back and forth between different pages. I have an asset in the library for that. I call it Page Navigators. I'm going to right-click, put that asset on the timeline. It's nothing more than a whole bunch of arrows. These are go-to-time hotspots, and they will correspond with the beginning of each call-out that is a page. And I'm going to, while this is selected, reposition these guys just a little bit so they're more centered in the canvas. And if I want to test them, I guess I could do that. I'll click on 11, go to its properties, test. And we've navigated to the 11th call out in our stack, so that's working okay. At this point, we've completed the build out of this vertically scrolling template that will display 19 pages of text that gets pasted into the callouts, and that scroll rate will take place over 18 minutes of time. And once again, I'll send the playhead to t equals 0, and we'll scrub, and you can see we're looking pretty good. With the template project build out complete, I would put this in the library and save it for future purposes. And then the next step would be to go ahead and use it to create a vertically scrolling text block. Now, to use the template project, we're going to simply copy and paste some text into the various pages. In an instance of Notepad++, I've copied some text that I pulled from Wikipedia. This is about tomatoes. And I'm just going to use this text to fill in the template. So I'm going to make a selection of a number of lines of this text, and we'll stop here. Control-C. Back in Camtasia, I'll select the first page, double-click to make sure that page is selected. I can confirm down here on the timeline. Then I'll double-click the text value and Control-V. And I've pasted my first block of text. So let's undo that. And if I wanted to keep the number at the top of the page, instead of getting rid of it, I would put the cursor there and then use the Enter key, Control-V, and I've accomplished the same thing except that I've got a reference to my page. And if I wanted to be cuter, I could go to the beginning of that and type page, maybe even give it a different color, like, let's say yellow. We'll do one more. Back in Notepad++, we'll scroll till we see some more text that we want to copy paste. Start here. And we'll just go with this block here. Control-C, back in Camtasia. We'll navigate to our next page, which we can do with by using the marker that I've still left available. So that's Control right bracket. We're at the 2 spot. Double click. I'm going to leave the 2 there this time. N key, Enter key, Control-V. And I've now pasted my second block of text. You can continue and fill this out and then go ahead and produce the production. And you'll find that you can click on a page navigator on the right and jump to a page, or you can scroll through the video. By the way, when you produce this, you want to produce it at 60 frames per second.